Okay, everyone, episode 8. Final episode of season 3, and we got the Battle of Tumbleton, finally. The first battle. In the book, there's a second battle, so we'll watch that next season. Now, the wild card this episode was Sir Ulf the White. Now, whether we like him or not as a character, after this episode, we will respect him, okay? When he defected to the Greens and arrived on Silverwing, drunk and cursing, he turned the tide of the battle. Now, I was surprised by my own reaction to this moment. I found myself rooting for Sir Ulf. Now, it was just last week I was trying to wax poetic about why Ulf turned, but this week I was like, turn, baby, turn! Now, he's been slapped around repeatedly in season 3 and was trafficked as a child. And Ulf has a big effing dragon now, as he himself has noted. He forced Team Black to retreat from Tumbleton. Daemon Targaryen was forced to retreat. So this defeat at the first Battle of Tumbleton could humanize Prince Daemon a little bit. Now we get close-ups of Daemon just baffled at the turn of events. Now here, Daemon is the commander of the Black Army along with Roderick Dustin. They're older and they make choices that shock the conscience, as they say, without much anguish. Dustin craters a small child's face with his axe, and Daemon burns 2 little kids who were placed as human shields in front of a gate. Bye-bye gate. Now, I'm looking forward to the aftermath next season. Prince Daemon probably will fight Sir Ulf, one-on-one, dragon against dragon, Targaryen versus Targaryen. Sir Ulf will die in fire and blood, but he will be respected. Now next, Orand Hightower meets his end. He was stabbed by Roderick Dustin of the Winter Wolves, which is what happens in the book. Now, Prince Daemon wanted to kill Ormond himself. When the army of the Blacks reaches Tumbleton, both Prince Daemon and Roderick Dustin go around calling for Ormond Hightower. Where's Hightower? But Dustin gets to him first. Now, Dustin is a big guy who fights with an axe, and he wants to die, so Ormond is severely injured. Not surprising. What was surprising was the prelude. Now, Sir Ulf is at a tavern getting drunk, so he's late to the battle. They find him asleep in the latrine, and Ormond grabs him out of there, throws him to the ground, just lays into him, calls him useless and baseborn. It's exactly what Prince Daemon had done to Ulf, slapping him around, which caused him to turn against Team Black, so when Ulf finally arrives on the battlefield on Silverwing, and he's burning them all, he sees Ormond, who's just been fatally stabbed by Roderick Dustin, on the battlements, and Ulf says, F you two and Dracarys. Ormond and Dustin go out like 2 Viking widows. Next up, Hugh Hammer. Now, he's supposed to be protecting King's Landing, but he leaves it unprotected to go to Tumbleton on Vermithor to try to find his wife, Cat. He does find her, but it's too late. He's arrived after Silverwing burned the small folk and the whole town, leaving it a smoking pile of debris. Now, Cat has perished. Let's recall last season, Vermithor chose Hugh Hammer over the rest of the Targaryen bastards, barbecuing all the rest of them in an act of fury, just to see what would happen. Now, maybe Vermithor was looking for the one who would stand in the breach for someone else, and that's what Hugh Hammer did. Now, when Vermithor saw that, he was like, that's him, the prince who was promised. I'm putting all of my chips on Hugh Hammer. So next season, they'll give him a great death, of course, but I hope we see the heroism once again that caused the second biggest dragon in the world to obey the commands of a human being, to engulf the world in fire and blood one last time. Next, Rhaenyra loses her mind. She does, because she finds out Aegon is alive. He's flying around on Sunfire, and this is the moment we see Rhaenyra's downfall being written. She puts on chainmail. The internet says it's Visenya's armor. Now, she goes to the High Septon with her entourage, including Alan of Hull, who's still not legitimized, and she demands the High Septon anoint her as queen. The High Septon refuses. He says, we've heard Aegon is returned, and it's a sign from the gods. He gives her those warnings. I'm protected by the 7. The warrior will come after you, etc. But he doesn't have a dragon behind him when he gives those warnings. Now, Alan steps forward. He's now a founding member of the cult of Rhaenyra. Alan drank the Kool-Aid, in other words, but it only gave him a mild headache. Now, he cuts down the High Septon with his daddy's Valyrian sword. Then the entourage goes out to meet the crowd, and Rhaenyra declares herself the prince who was promised. Now, Daenerys Targaryen gave the same speech, I realized, but it was after she had burned King's Landing to the ground. So at that point, she was preaching to the choir for the most part, to her own troops. And when Julius Caesar won over the people of Rome, he always came bearing gifts. He conquered Gaul and brought the spoils into the Roman treasury. He did that with his campaign in Egypt as well. Now, here, Rhaenyra is asking the people to finance her war in Tumbleton. She didn't bring any spoils of war. She's asking for austerity, and she claims she's the prince who was promised, which is a cult-like argument. Now, I'll just mention here that Baela hasn't drunk the Kool-Aid. She wanted to fly to Tumbleton on Moondancer to rescue her grandfather, Corlys, but Rhaenyra said, "I should have grounded you after the gullet," and she grabs Baela's face. How rude. Next, Helaena kills herself. Now, this is after Mysaria is banished from King's Landing. Rhaenyra sends a messenger to tell Mysaria to pack up her stuff. She's leaving for Pentos. She'll be provided for, but her quote-unquote services to the queen won't be needed anymore. In so many words, thank you, ma'am. You were just what was needed. That will be all. Now, Mysaria takes it the wrong way. As she's being escorted out of the Red Keep, she runs into Helaena and tells her, "Rhaenyra will keep you here and your child as hostages forever because Aegon has returned. He's alive and so is Sunfire. You will never leave the Red Keep." Soon after that, Helaena kills herself. Now, at that moment, Alicent is on the road from Harrenhal. A bunch of butterflies that had been resting on the shrubbery fly up into the sky. Now, this could be the powers that be telling Alicent, your daughter has passed. And maybe they also are telling her, two of your sons, both of whom you hate, have joined forces at Harrenhal, because that's what happened. Now, Sunfire lands in Harrenhal, and Aegon confronts Aemond. There's practical reasons for his decision, but we also see maturity and growth from Aegon because he forgives Aemond here for the moment. He says they will fly together to King's Landing as Daeron has declared himself king. We'll bring him to heel, then destroy Rhaenyra. Then maybe I'll consider whether I should let you live. Now, Aemond is betrothed to Alice Rivers. She tells him her story. She's an ancient witch. Alice bore a child to Lord Harren at the time of Aegon's conquest, which was about 130 years before the current timeline. When Aegon burned Harrenhal, everyone died, including her child. She tried to bring him back through dark spells that she learned from maybe the children of the forest, but all she did was curse herself with immortality. She found that out when she tried to kill herself, so apparently she does have a claim to Harrenhal. Tumbleton. Now, just to conclude, Daeron wanted to join the battle on Tessarion, but Gwaine said, "You'll have to get through me." He wouldn't let Daeron fight. Now, Gwaine released Corlys from the prison cell and sent him to Team Black as a gesture of goodwill. Gwaine wanted to divide the kingdom. Rhaenyra could take everything except for Old Town, where Daeron would rule. It was an extremely good offer, but Daemon rejected it because he's a Targaryen. He would rather take the fire and blood. Now, I enjoyed this season. I'll be looking forward to the next. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.